quote, reviewing the possible mismanagement of the federal government's investigation of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the House Oversight Committee today announced that they will be interviewing former U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta on September 19th. Acosta, as you might remember, is the former Trump labor secretary who way back in 2007, 2008 negotiated that sweetheart plea deal with Jeffrey Epstein. The committee is also issuing a subpoena for the Epstein estate, demanding to see NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and Epstein's last will and testament, and that alleged birthday book, and any potential list of clients involved in sex acts, or sex trafficking. All of this follows the Friday afternoon release by the Justice Department of a transcript and audio of its interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted sex trafficker and Epstein associate. In her interview with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, she denied there being any sort of Epstein client list, and she said she never heard allegations that President Trump acted inappropriately. Maxwell also denied that Epstein paid her millions to recruit young women or lured a masseuse from Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort.
Do you have recollection of you ever recruiting a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago spa to go give a private massage to Mr. Epstein?
I've never recruited a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago for that, as far as I remember. I can't ever recollect doing that.
That is a notable claim, perhaps false, because Virginia Giuffre, the outspoken Epstein victim who died by suicide earlier this year, claimed that Mar-a-Lago is specifically where Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her. Then in the second day of her conversation with Todd Blanche, Ghislaine Maxwell said this.
I realized that the allegation at least is that I met in Mar-a-Lago, so I felt that I needed to address that, and I didn't want to leave that hanging because that seems weird under the circumstances. And also, but I couldn't remember anyone, and that maybe it's a long period of time. So the issue is not that I'm trying to not say, but I don't remember anybody that I would have. But it's not impossible that I might have asked someone from that.
I don't know exactly what you said yesterday, but I don't think what you said yesterday is different than what you just said.
Of course, the first blaring question here is why should anyone believe anything that Ghislaine Maxwell has to say? Even in Trump's first term, the Justice Department labeled Maxwell a brazen liar. A key reminder is that the people who matter most in all of this are the victims, the survivors, people whose words should matter more than that of a convicted sex trafficker. In just a moment, I'm going to ask one of those victims her thoughts on all of this. But first, let's bring in CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez. Evan, what exactly does the House Oversight Committee want from the Epstein estate?
Well, they're asking for a number of documents. Chiefly among them, they're asking for financial documents. They're looking for anything that could be construed as a client list. Obviously, you know that the Justice Department says that there is no such thing as a client list. So they're looking for other ways to sort of get to that, perhaps a list of people who may have been involved in some of Epstein's crimes. They're also looking for any non-disclosure agreements that he may have ordered people to sign as a result. And also, importantly, they're asking about that book that the Wall Street Journal reported on. It was a birthday book that Ghislaine Maxwell says that she helped put together. If you remember in her interview, she doesn't remember whether Donald Trump was one of the people who provided a letter for that book. That's what the Wall Street Journal has reported. The president himself has denied this, and he is suing the Journal and, of course, Rupert Murdoch over that allegation.
And the committee, the House Oversight Committee, led by Chairman James Comer, also wants to hear from Alex Acosta, the former Trump labor secretary, who way back in 2007, 2008 was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, and he negotiated that sweetheart deal for Epstein. Why do they think it's so critical to hear from him?
Well, you know what, Jake, because we really haven't heard much from Alex Acosta ever since he left the Trump administration when this story first kicked up. 2019,
yeah.
Right, exactly, when he resigned. We haven't heard much from him. And so I think it's actually one of the more important interviews that the committee is asking for, which is for him to explain why he entered into that very sweetheart deal that allowed Epstein to plead guilty to local charges in Palm Beach County and not really bring down the hammer from the federal government, which is eventually what happened with the Southern District of New York.
Yeah, and he also got work release, and
Right.
he also, they
Very good term.
They used a victim who was like 17 instead of 14.
Right.
A whole bunch of fishy stuff in there. The other blaring question, of course, is why is the Deputy Attorney General doing all this, Todd Blanche? And also, if you read the transcript, it's very frustrating as a journalist. I'm sure you experienced this too. He did not push back at all on some things she said that were clearly lies or at least deserved some follow-up.
Right. I mean, this is partly why a lot of the criticism of this is that was Todd Blanche there as a Deputy Attorney General trying to get to the bottom of this? Was he there essentially helping Donald Trump find exculpatory information from Ghislaine Maxwell? That's what comes away. Listen to this exchange between the two of them.
If you met Epstein, there is no way that this cast of characters, of which it's extraordinary, some of you in your cabinet, who you value as your co-workers and you know, would be with him if he was a creep or because they wanted sexual favors. A man wants sexual favors, he will find that. They didn't have to come to Epstein for that. Now, okay, I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it.
So when's the last time you think you were with Mr. Epstein when he got a massage?
I want to say 2007.
And there's a lot of the interview that goes like this over 2 days, Jake, and what you repeatedly see is the purpose that Ghislaine Maxwell is going after here. She's trying to get out of prison. She is hoping for a pardon, which is why it goes on, the transcript goes on for so long, back and forth about the birthday book and whether she remembers Trump contributing anything to it. And also that, she never saw President Trump do anything untoward or anything wrong in her presence. And then, of course, the secondary part, which is that I did nothing wrong. I saw nothing, no crimes committed. And so this was her effort, really, better than anyone else's, right, to try to set the table for herself.
All right, Evan Perez, thank you so much. And joining us now is Liz Stein. She is a survivor of Epstein and Maxwell's trafficking ring. She now works as a survivor mentor and policy associate at the Support Center for Child Advocates in Philadelphia. Liz, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really interested to learn what your reaction is to the contents of the Maxwell transcript, the very fact of her being interviewed by the Deputy Attorney General, her prison transfer, and the overall treatment of Maxwell.
I think that it's pretty obvious that she's not being truthful in this interview. And I think that something that the public might not be aware of, if you're someone who isn't following this case really closely, is that in her federal indictment, there were perjury charges stemming from a deposition that was held in a civil suit involving Virginia Giuffre. And when it came time for Maxwell's trial, those charges were severed because the prosecutors did not want the testimony from those charges to unduly influence the jury. And when she was ultimately convicted of the other counts, those charges were dropped. So we're already talking about someone who has been less than truthful previously. And I think that it's really difficult for us as survivors to have the government speaking to someone who's been convicted of this crime and giving her any weight whatsoever in terms of leniency. I mean, the move to a federal prison camp is really an unprecedented move for someone who's been charged with these crimes. And so I'm just curious why the government is putting so much stock in what Ghislaine Maxwell is saying, but they're not talking to the actual victims of this crime.